In this video, I want to look at some of the basics of using your text editor. That, of course, is this large box when you're adding a new post or adding a new page. And it really is the area for your content of your post or your page. And we enter text in this box in here. And I'm just going to paste some text in here for us to work with. I'm going to, let's say, highlight this area right here, and I'm going to bold it. And I'm going to italicize this, let's say. So I'm working in a kind of what you see is what you get editor, like a word processor. And this is very handy because it shows us exactly what we're getting. If you work in HTML mode, you instead have HTML tags. And some people are more comfortable working this way. Or, and this is very important, it may be that you've got very specific coding you need to work with. And this visual editor will actually sanitize, it'll clean up code. And some of it doesn't like, and some of it actually strips out because it's worried that it's dangerous or it doesn't fit its mode. HTML is whatever you put in there. So if you put in specific kinds of tags that the visual editor doesn't like, HTML mode will keep them in place. So some of you may actually want to work in HTML mode all the time. It has a much more limited button bar here, but it will do something very similar. So for example, if I highlight this text right here and I click bold, it does put in the coding necessary on both sides of the text I highlighted. So you've got a little bit in here to work with. On the visual button bar, you have much more to work with. In fact, if I click this one here called the kitchen sink button, it'll show even more. And there are plugins you can get which will add even more to these choices. Okay, so we've seen that these buttons will allow us to do different things with the text. Let's say, for example, I want to get rid of all of this formatting that I've done here. There's an erase button here that literally clears everything for me. That can be very handy sometimes when you've got a lot of coding that you want to get rid of quickly all at one time. We'll be going into more detail of some of these things like using lists and so forth and doing links in other videos, but I want you to get a feel for how this works. Now, one of the things to get used to with the text editor that's a little bit confusing at first is, watch when I do this. If I hit return here, I create a new paragraph. Okay. What that means to the text editor is that in the final analysis, it's going to wrap this whole section here automatically in paragraph tags in HTML. Same with this one. This is now a single paragraph. All right. It isn't so much that I've created a line space, is that I've designated these as paragraphs. So people think if they go like this, they're adding another space to this. And then when they publish it or look at it in their preview, they notice that this space isn't there. That's because you actually haven't put anything in, so the text editor just sees this as a blank and doesn't put anything in. If I was to add even one word here, it would then see this as a paragraph and add paragraph tags to it. But if it's empty, it just sees it as empty space, and in HTML, empty space is nothing. There's no extra space there. If you want to create a new line, not a new paragraph, but a new line within a paragraph, you have to hold down your Shift key and hit return. And notice what happens now. Watch what happens if I take that back and erase it, and now I do return. Notice it has a larger space on it. That space indicates a new paragraph. But if I just want a new line, I do Shift, Return, and then I get that. All right, so those are some of the basics of working with this. We're going to go into more details of putting in images, aligning them to the text, and so forth. But this will get you going, at least in the basics, of choosing between visual and HTML, for example, and some basics of using the visual text editor.